Kath, is we didn't have a digital record. Now we do. So you don't actually have to sign in and see. No, we don't have to do it.
All right. Good afternoon, everyone. Welcome to the House of Aging meeting for November the 7th, 2022. And did everybody go over the minutes and see what? Oh, you have a question?
No, I don't have a question. I'm going to change. I want everybody to know that I neglected to change the meeting date on there for the next month. And the next month, what's the meeting date? It should be December, not November. December 5.
Well, that's what mine says.
The minutes? That's the agenda.
Oh.
That's not the minutes. That's what you said. Yeah, that's what I'm going to
Just a note, folks, if you make a comment, unless you're really loud like myself, the camera won't pick up your voices. So please make sure you use microphones so that we hear them. Kathy's note is in the minutes. The next meeting date is indicated as Monday, November 12th. It should be December 5th. That's the only correction that was noted.
Okay, anybody have any questions on it? Did you make a motion to accept?
Nope, just entertain a motion.
I make a motion to accept the minutes.
Okay, is there a second? Okay, so accepted. All righty.
No, motion made and carried. Any discussion on the motion?
Any discussion on the motion? Okay, take a vote. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, so voted.
Thank you, Ron. If for those of you who don't know, Terry Hillman is our treasurer, but I was away and wasn't able to sit with Terry to do the report. So with your okay, Terry, is it okay if I present the financials? Okay. So our general fund, the fund that comes from the city for our normal operating expenses, we have a budget of $188,865. Our year-to-date expenses, that's July 1 through October 31st, $56,109. It's about a third of the way through, and we're about a third of the way through our expenses. October expenses totals $15,795, the vast majority of that being salaries, and our balance from the city operating account is $132,756. Any questions on the operating fund? All right, we're going to the gift fund. That really hasn't changed a lot. It's changed a little. We started this year with $52,670 in the gift fund. We added from July 1st through October 31st, $2,800. In October, we took in $875 of that $2,800. You'll note that last line on the right is not correct. I didn't go through. But the bottom line is correct. So our bottom line right now, we're carrying over, as of October 31st, 2022, $55,470 in the gift account. Now, gift account is earmarked money for special projects designated by folks when they make the gift. We come back to this board and ask for your permission and guidance to spend gift account money. And usually they're for big purchases. Any questions on the gift account? All right, going to revolving funds. Our revolving fund started on July 1st with $33,370 in it. We added $12,000 in revenue. So if you think about that, that's about a third, or a little bit, more than a third of what we started with. So that's pretty good. And this month alone in October, we took in about $3,700. our expenses range from everything from food, our safe driver education course, travel and mileage, the Tuckerton Fish and Glen was our summer outing. We went to the Red Sox, so the Woo Sox trip is in there. There's training, Saracen, we did Safe Serve. For those of you who don't know, a lot of the expenses you see are pass-through expenses. So for the training, for example, the Red Sox is another great example. We take in money and then we put that same money out. So for training, the training cost $160 a person. We had 10 people take that training. 2 of those were senior center staff. So 8 of those people we paid out as direct pass-throughs. The only real expense for the training for us was about $320. Not about, it was $320 for our 2 staff. Generally, everything else was a pass-through except those product purchases of, the linens, for example, under Safeguard, $486. But generally, we take in about as much money as we spend. And in fact, you can look at year-to-date, our income was $12,469, our expenses was $13,090, which leaves a difference of only about $600 that we expensed that wasn't reimbursed through program money. In October, we took in $3,700, $3,734 to be exact, and we spent $2,371. So our balance in the gift account is, in the revolving account is $32,749. We are capped at $40,000. We can't carry more than $40,000 over at the end of the year. But as long as we maintain this balance of expenses to income, I don't think we're going to get into any predicaments in that regard. You'll see some funny expenses like clinic health, $125. We buy lunch for our clinic workers who work all day, or some other kind of refreshment. So there's always going to be, there's really no expense. It doesn't cost us. They don't charge us. But we do that as a way to make sure that the staff, eat and are healthy as a small token of our appreciation. Any questions on the revolving fund?
One little one. What is special CC?
That's special credit cards. So those are things that aren't, So what I typically will do, at least, I try to do it monthly, but I can't always do it monthly. That $217 is actually allocated to the 7 line items you see below. So it's going to be gift cards, it's going to be our vet-to-vet program, coffee, juice, things like that for the vet-to-vet. The Red Apple Farm, we did the Red Apple Farm event last year, that went under special CC. Event supplies, if we're doing a particular event like Thanksgiving, we'll buy stuff for Thanksgiving specifically, decorations, table decorations, so that it all falls within those 7 categories. I haven't broken them down yet. Yeah. Yep. Any other questions on the revolving fund?
No, why is that capped at 40,000?
That's by, so actually, I'll tell you, Dan, prior to this year, it was capped at $20,000. We could only carry over $20,000, but before this fiscal year started, the City Council voted to increase the cap to the revolving fund to $40,000. It's a revolving fund, and it shouldn't be, the idea here is that it should be spent on the programs for which the money is raised rather than becoming a nest egg. The gift account is that nest egg. That's the account.
So that goes to the council?
The annual encumbrance and cap on the revolving fund goes to the council. The gift fund, well, but none of the expenses do. So we don't ask for permission to spend money out of any account. It's ours. So as you know, the gift account has to be renewed every year, and the revolving fund has to be renewed every year, just by vote of the council. And this year they voted to increase the amount we were allowed to carry over. Thank you. Any other questions on revolving fund? All right, the last fund is our state grant. So just to remind you how the state grant works, there's a per capita allocation sent to us or earmarked by the legislation by the legislature through the Executive Office of Elder Affairs that gives every senior center, every council on aging this allocation based on the per capita. Our 2020-22 budget was $49,464. That is predicated on previous year's grants. Now, when a grant is signed, it's good for 10 years, so that $49,464 was good for 10 years. The new allocation has been set for 2023, moving forward to 2033. So we'll know how much we're going to get in the next 10 years. That too had two very particular requirements prior to COVID. First of all, you had to spend everything, or anything you didn't spend had to be returned. The second thing was kind of a very onerous accounting review of that money that was being spent. So when COVID hit, those two provisions were eliminated. We still have to report, but not to the level of detail that we used to, and we're allowed to carry over. That was particularly good for senior centers all across the state because COVID really affected our ability to spend money. So, we weren't open for programs, we weren't doing those special things. A lot of the expenses we had incurred in previous years, we weren't incurring now. So that's changed. In addition, so you should know, from 2021, we carried over about $9,000 that we didn't spend. In 2022, we carried over $15,000 we didn't spend, plus the 9 from 2021. So that's $24,000 to carry over. The good news, the really good news is we're going to spend that when we go to Waterford Street next year. That money's going to go. So while it looks like we're sitting on some cash, we're also doing things like trying to get the outreach coordinator. That's a position that's paid for out of this grant. We used money from the 2021 grant for the outreach coordinator. That person left, and we haven't been able to subsequently fill that position again. So we're working on filling that. That will eat up some of this money as well. The last bit is we anticipate a fiscal year 2023 increase from the $49,464 of about another $14,500. So next year's allocation will be about $63,000. And I understand it from John that money has come in. So it's now sitting in our account. So we have a little bit of money now to spend on program, and although we are being very judicious because we don't want to put a lot of money into the building right now, knowing that we're going to be moving in here. So some of the things we might spend money on this year, we're not. We'll wait until we get to Waterford Street. So about $6,000 of this money that we spent in 2023, fiscal year 2023, has been for the outreach coordinator position. We have some Amazon expenses, some food expenses, the Staples expenses to support our Shine counselor. We bought a portable printer for her to be able to print applications and documents in the throes of a counseling session, so she doesn't have to go back and forth to print those or send them to me by email and hope I'm there so I can print them for her. So we've got a little printer, costs us $200. Some entertainment expenses. Our fees for our instructors are included in that, and that's about $4,000. No, $5,000. So it's $29.90 to be exact, $49.90 to be exact. So we pay our instructors or other special programs out of the grant account. Our homeless assistance funds come out of here, and then for the health fair, we had the table rental of about $1,100. So total, in fiscal year 2023, we've spent about $18,000. The last month was about $5,900. So our balance coming into November is $71,407. So it's still a pretty good chunk of change that is normally used. And so if you could look at the big picture, operating account pays for our salaries, revolving account is a pass-through, and the state grant really pays for our programs that aren't funded by fees. All right, any questions on the state grant? Paul?
Mrs. Owen, if I'm not mistaken, we got $71,000 in the state grant.
We got $63,000 this year.
Going up, what I'm saying right now on the...
Yes, you have $71,000,
okay.
yeah.
And you just said that we just got to be okay for next year's allocation.
That's included in that.
Oh, it is?
Yeah. If you look up at the top, you'll see the descriptions of the revenue. Beginning balance, that's this year's grant, $49,000. Fiscal 2023 increase, $14,508. The carryover from 21-22 is $25,000.
Thank you.
Thank you. Any other questions? Nobody? All right. I joke too much during our meetings, but I'm surprised nobody's asked when the board retreat in Aruba is going to be, but we won't tonight.
What fun is that?
I don't know about schedule.
Which fun do we pull from?
Yep, so normally, I apologize. This is twice now, because of my schedule, I haven't been able to meet with Terry, but I will also tell you that in this case, preparing this report, I was doing it remotely, so a lot of the, getting to this information is sometimes a deep dive. So I think I had Nancy on the phone for 2.5 hours going through the financials, giving me numbers over the phone. And then John Richard, our auditor, who provides us exceptional support, spent some time with me as well to make sure. So you should know and feel good that the numbers are validated not only by me, but by our auditor and other people. Usually that other person is Terry. So, all right.
All right. So there's no questions on behalf on the treasurer's report, because everything seemed to have gone through pretty good individually, having sections, so that's good. So let's see, we'll go into old business.
Nope, it's table. Oh, next table. So for those of you who didn't hear, Terry has made a motion to accept the financial report as presented.
Second.
Second by Gustav.
Okay, and all in favor?
Oh, yeah, Dan. Yeah. I think it's not contentious, so we're gonna let him. Yeah. So we'll talk about that in a minute. That's a good point. Yeah. Nothing. Yeah. So,
All in favor? Okay. No voting.
just for clarification, I mean, there are two parts of board membership. There's the appointed 7-member by the mayor. Then there are the associate members who aren't appointed but still serve in the same capacity. And what Ron and I talked about, and Paul, a little bit is, if the matter isn't contentious, like if there really isn't a lot of acrimony or debate, then allowing everyone kind of full voice and ability to vote is I think certainly okay. Maybe it's out of order. I'll check with somebody, but I don't think it's an issue until it is. So, and when it is, we'll go to the just 7 members. No. But there are many committees that have associate. We're the only one that has associate members. It has people who aren't appointed. Yeah. That's a good thing. Yeah. All right.
So we're on your old business stuff.
Yes.
Okay, so Mike, what do you have for your old business?
No update on bylaws. Again, we talked about it last month. Once the elections are over, we'll make this a priority. But I don't want to exert a lot of pressure on the city clerk in her first major election. So we're gonna give her a pass, and once that's done, we'll harass her.
We have a COVID update. I believe there's something coming up.
Yeah, on the agenda, you want to do listening sessions first?
Oh, okay. We had, Mike and I went up to the, Gary was with us that day. We went over to Hillside Gardens. We had a meeting there. We had about a dozen people that came to see what we had to say and asked for our input. We asked for their input also. And it was a very successful session. It lasted about an hour.
2 hours. Yep.
Oh, that's not good. So,
And the week before we did.
before we were at the high rise.
Yep.
And we had a good meeting at the high rise also, same thing. People giving us input, what they would like to see at the senior center, if they have any issues they could bring up. So that worked out well.
And I think one of the biggest advantages or benefits to us doing that is it now starts to put us in the community. Rather than making the community come to us, it gives us the opportunity to have our ears on the ground and hear what people are saying. And I think generally the comments were very positive, but I love the fact that we're at least eliciting that input. Because we can't change things, correct things, or add things if we don't know what people need. So I would really encourage, and I'm so incredibly grateful of the support by by Ron and Paul to make this a priority of doing this kind of annually. So we'll look at maybe doing it in the spring and in the fall again next year, just to provide people the opportunity, especially as we look forward to our new location. That will give us new opportunities.
And help the people who say they can't come to the senior center, they want transportation, so at least they'll be able to bus route.
I'd like to add that I went to one of those listening sessions at the High Rise. Even though I feel I'm involved here, it was very informative. I enjoyed it tremendously. Mike did a fantastic job.
Oh, thank you, Nancy. Yeah, I found it informative too. I mean, I have left every single session with something new, so it was really pretty good. Thank you.
Mike got involved solving a problem that really wasn't a senior center. And he solved residents. There's here.
Oh, they gave us the hallway, yeah.
That was funny though, wasn't it?
But you were there, but
Yeah, we were up there talking, the guy thought we were there for the building, the hillside gardens, not for the senior center.
but Mike solved his problem. Got him some heat. Got him a promise that
And it was a cold day too, it was raining that day.
Yeah, it was a raw day.
Yeah, it was. Were you having another session coming up?
Nope, we're good for the year, yeah.
All set for this year?
So,
Okay.
gives us a break for at least another 3 or 4 months.
All right.
Yeah, do you want to do the COVID?
Oh, we would.
Because you might get mentioned it. I didn't put it in, I apologize.
Okay. One thing I want to say with COVID is that we're going to be having another clinic. We'll have Mike fill us in on that because he told me about it this morning when I came in, so.
It may seem like overkill now to keep doing clinics, but the reality is when we first experienced COVID in Gardner and the shots, the vaccines were first announced, our participation rate among seniors was over 95%. 95% of folks 65 and over were getting their vaccines. Gardner, and now let's fast forward 2 years. Gardner is now in a area of concern, DPH. Vaccine rates have gone down dramatically, and the number of COVID cases has increased. So they're looking to do anything they can in 10 small geographical regions, 10 geographical regions in 5 cities, and we're one of those cities. So they're looking to do some extra lifts. Well, we have a great partner, Community Health Connections. We had moved ahead already and scheduled a COVID clinic for December 19th. It'll be here at the Senior Center. It's by appointment only, so it's not walk-ins. That helps us manage the system a little bit better and make sure we have enough vaccine and time to address anybody who comes in. But, and this is a major announcement, I had the opportunity last week to connect with the Department of Public Health because we're an area of concern, and they're looking to do some creative things to get booster rates up in those areas of critical need, including Gardner. We will be offering a $75 gift card to everybody who gets a COVID vaccine or booster that day. $75. Open to the public, so it's not just seniors, it's anybody who comes to our clinic. And by the way, vaccines are available for folks 6 years of age and older. So, a week before Christmas, that might be a little bit of an incentive, maybe not, to get some people out to the clinic. Whether it is or isn't, I want to just make sure that folks here know the great work that's being done by CHC and just the amount of logistical support they give us in this. The great work that's being done by our volunteers who man registration and observation and recreation and the food and concession stand that they do. It's great. I mean, it's really great. It just has been, there have been no issues for us so far, knock on wood. So thank you. And I think this $75 really increases our legitimacy.
This is donated or who's paying the
Not us. It's not us. Yep, no, the Department of Public Health is paying the whole kit and caboodle for each of those cards. Yep. Paul, if you want to grab the mic, Ken, you want to pass it down?
I can speak up.
Oh, you can.
I saw on a news clip yesterday that the national participation rate for the booster is 8%.
Wow.
What, 8?
Wow.
8?
Which means we're going to have an overload of COVID cases.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, and once we get past, well, no, I'll talk a little bit about, we're seeing a surge. We're definitely seeing an increase here of our participants, coming from a lot of different, environments that they're being exposed to. And in fact, today, Ron Darmetta sat in the office all day answering phones and helping me because our 2 staff people are out with COVID. So I think the reality is, and they're very diligent. I mean, Nancy wears a mask all the time. I can't say enough good about the 2 of them and how much they work. But we came in this weekend, we disinfected, we cleaned. The vast majority of spread isn't coming from tables and chairs. It's that one-on-one, face-to-face contact. So, yeah, we're seeing a surge. And Paul, that is more than strikingly concerning, right?
Yes.
So maybe we can boost that up a little bit. I think, by the way, that's nationwide. There are areas that have a much better absorption and saturation rate. I think Gardner and the Commonwealth of Massachusetts has done fairly well, but there's still a lot of work we can do. And any way we can get them in the door, let's bring them in.
What other groups are now aware of what we're doing so they can get the word out to their decisions?
So the answer to that is no one but everyone. So the minute we heard, I contacted various city agencies. They're going to help us do a blast out. So the Board of Health, the Mayor's Office, they'll Facebook it, they'll social media post it, we'll put it out there. GET will put it out for us, and then we'll email and call. I might ask the mayor to do an all call to let them know we're doing this, but we have limited capacity. So we're not like the COVID clinics that started right at the beginning of COVID, where we had a lot of capacity. Well, that's not true. On one day, in 1 hour, we had 19,000 calls in an hour. 19,000 from all over New England, Vermont, Connecticut, trying to get into the PACC. 19,000. I have a feeling once we announce the $75 gift card, we're going to get a lot of calls, and we simply don't have the capacity. So I want to get it out there, but I also want to keep it a little bit tethered. A little bit.
Do you have the details already settled on that? I know this because I would like to participate in that because I've been told by my boss I need another shot. And I noticed it's on Monday, so do you know like what the time starts and finishes?
So right now it's 12:30. Initially we set a deadline of 4. It'll probably go to 6. So it's probably going to be a 12:30 to 6. So we can get some of those folks that are still in the workforce, get them appointments. That's what we have typically done when we've done afternoons. So we'll do about 5.5, 6 hours.
And will be I guess there's a 3rd or a 4th booster that's supposed to be had and buy something about that.
The bivalent is what we do. In fact, every office in the Commonwealth of Massachusetts has been told if you do a booster now, it has to be the bivalent. There's no other booster being offered. Yeah.
Yes.
Is there anything set for movement to law for streets?
So we're going to bring that up under new business, Ken? Yep, we're still doing COVID.
On the vaccine you just mentioned, is that vaccine was given at the healthcare last week?
So we were lucky enough, the answer to that is yes. We were lucky enough to really have the first clinic in Central Mass to have that vaccine. But we were chomping at the bit. I mean, we were literally nail biting up until the day before because the vaccine had just come out and it wasn't readily or easily accessible. So a lot of the projected shipments were delayed. We got it. We got it for our healthcare. So they were very pleased and to be able to offer that, as we agreed, right, that we were able to do that. So that's the one from last time. Yeah. Yeah. So the way it's gone is there was, the first shot, the second shot, full shots, full doses. The third shot for immunocompromised, which was a full dose. And then it kind of went 2 different ways. There was a full dose of Pfizer as a booster, full dose of Pfizer as second booster, full dose of Pfizer as a third, then half a dose of Moderna as the first booster, half a dose of Moderna as the second booster, half a dose of Moderna as the third. This is now a bivalent. They don't do that anymore. Its own booster, it's its own shot. Yeah. So they're not just cutting the dosage down, it's a whole new booster shot. And this new booster shot addresses the new variants, which is really important. That's why it's a bivalent, right? So it's addressing Omicron and the new ones that are coming out. So
So what you're saying is those that got it last month, they're good.
those who got it last month, you're good. Yep, yep. Except you're $75 short. No.
You'll get a gift card.
I had 3 shots scheduled that day. I had them all scheduled. And because it was running around, I didn't get it, and I didn't get my foot. He's like, you gotta get it. No, I'm waiting now. Ken.
I got my third shot quite a while ago. Now, maybe that didn't cover that new version that's coming out.
Chances are very good it didn't. So what I would do, I'm not a health professional. I am, I think, better informed than most on the COVID, but still not a medical professional. I would call your doc and say, my last vaccine was this. There is a vaccine clinic coming up on December 19th. Do you think I should get this bivalent vaccine? I would make that call sooner rather than later, because if you wait till December 18th, you're probably not getting it.
Thank you.
When will the sign up for this start?
As soon as I have staff here to take registrations. So this week, I imagine we'll open it up. We'll put it out there. We'll do an all-call and an email blast announcing the registration.
2 weeks ago, they had a clinic out of the PACC. Do you think we got the right?
I do, yes. Yeah, I absolutely do. If it was 2 weeks ago, no doubt it was
Or was it
the
3?
bivalent. Because once the bivalent came out, which came out October 1st, well, it actually came out before then, but it wasn't really readily available until then. Again, at our clinic on October 5th, we were the first one to introduce it in this area. Now to get a booster, it has to be the bivalent. Everything after October 1st, from what I understand, it has to be the bivalent. So if you got it 3 weeks ago, chances are very good you got that one.
Yeah, I looked at my card, and it says my variant. I got it September 6th.
Nice. September 6th?
Yeah.
Oh, good. And you're good. Yeah, the biggest problem with it coming out in October was it was supply. So somebody was able to get it ahead. Good, that's exactly what you should have.
At least CVS had, I got mine also at the same time.
Fresh shot.
All right, any other questions about COVID? Well, a lot of great discussion. By the way, I always say to people, if you're thinking it and you're wondering it, somebody else is, so please ask the question. Better to have it asked and let us find the information than let it go unsaid. So thank you.
Okay, any other questions? All right, I guess we'll go to the next topic. Will be on our new business.
I don't want to shock anybody, but I will make this really short. I won't.
He's all talked down.
Dan knows me. Dan knows me all too well. A lot of really good programs coming up. I just want to remind you, today we had the Department of Motor Vehicles here talking about Real ID. We have SNAP, we have DTA and Hope coming in doing SNAP and HIP applications. We have our real estate doing downsizing. We have RCAP Solutions doing housing. We have Chair City Pharmacy doing medications. Just a lot of folks coming in. But one of the issues for us is always space. From now until December, we do 3 days a week of Medicare counseling. So 3 days a week, our conference room is booked. And starting January 1st, for those of you who are watching, we will be doing the AARP tax program again, tax aid. So those appointments will be available. We'll announce those in the December newsletter and start accepting appointments in December. So if you know somebody who needs some assistance with their taxes, as importantly, I'm going to look to all of you as well as your spheres of influence. If you know somebody who would be good at assisting, they don't have to be a tax accountant. They don't have to, be rigorously trained and educated in doing taxes. If they're good with people and they're able to navigate some forms, do some intake, AARP Tax Aid has kind of levels of efficiency or ability. So we have some folks up front just helping fill out the paperwork, and then that stuff is passed on to the tax preparers, and then passed on to the kind of final documenters or auditors. So at any level, if you're interested, we would we'd love to have you in there. Every year we lose people. So being able to provide AARP tax aid at every senior center is now impossible. But that wasn't the case 10 years ago. So, people are reluctant to help for whatever reason. It is a commitment. It's January through April, right, of a weekly meeting. Does that mean you have to be there every week? No. If you're going away to see your family or something, they'll find someone to fill in. But it's still a pretty big commitment. If you're interested, folks, if you're watching and you have an inclination to assist, give us a call. We're right up against the wall and being able to bring new recruits in. We have some great holiday programs coming up. Our holiday fraud program with DA Early and the Office of Consumer Affairs. We have our holiday party, which is scheduled for December 7th. And then on November 30th, we have an energy program coming up, which will include folks from Unitil, National Grid, Mass Save, Good Neighbor Fund from Salvation Army, MOC, Fuel Assistance, and I'm missing one. So a lot of resources coming to talk about, all right, if you're worried about paying your heating bill this year, what are some things you can do? What are some conservation, energy efficiency things you can do to cut your costs? What are some of the available resources that might be able to help you pay if you're in a financial situation and can't afford your electric or gas or oil bills? All right, so some really good programs. Next week we have fall prevention. Then coming up in December, I talked about the holiday event on December 7th. On December 9th, we have the mental health first aid. It's an all-day training on what are the most prevalent mental health issues in our community and how do you respond to somebody who's in crisis. We have the Registrar of Probate and the Registrar of Deeds coming in on December 12th, talking about deeds, our past, present, and future. So they'll talk about trusts and estates and probate and how they intermingle and what are some of the problems, headaches you could have, and what are some ways to resolve those problems. So a really good program. Well, of course, we have the vaccine clinic on the 19th. Our AARP holiday event is December 21st. And our holiday meals. Our holiday meal for Thanksgiving is Thanksgiving Day. If you're interested and willing to come out and be a part of that, we'd love to have you. We're doing two modalities. We're doing an in-house meal for folks that want to congregate and be with others for the holidays. That will be at the Lodge of Elks. That starts at 12:30 on Thanksgiving Day. And we have a drive-up pickup that starts at 11 o'clock. So they can get a container of food and a bag of stuff, and off they go. We have done that every year. One of the things that we have changed is the personal deliveries to the homes. We're not doing that again this year. Again, because COVID is still raging in our community. We're not comfortable sending people to other people's homes and being responsible for that. So if they want to come to us, that's their decision rather than us bringing it to them. Our holiday meal for Christmas is December 23rd. That's Friday. That's going to be entirely pickup here at the Senior Center. We have a whole cadre of folks that assist with that. I want to just give a huge shout out to the Gardner Lodge of Elks. They prepare our entire meal for Thanksgiving. So their members spend from Monday until Thursday prepping and cooking food. They are awesome. We really appreciate all that they do. It is a heavy lift. And I've had the pleasure of many years being there and watching them and being part of it. I can't say to you folks enough that would help you understand the work that they do. On Christmas, we do a little bit different. The Elks has been gracious enough to cook the meat for us, so they do the turkey, prepare the turkey, shred it, and have it contained for us. But various organizations throughout the city assist us with that as well. Haywood Commons makes stuffing, and Whitson's Food Service, which is the school's food service, make us potatoes. And so everybody takes a little bit of the meal to provide a big meal for the community. It's a pretty awesome model. And again, I'm overwhelmed by the generosity of folks. When you ask, they say yes. So that morning, we'll need folks to go pick the food up early, between 7 and 9:30. Pick the containers up from the 10 different vendors. Bring it here. And then once here, we're going to have a whole group of people that are prepping the food. So they'll be containerizing it, packaging it, getting it ready for the folks that are going to pick up. We'll have people in the kitchen preparing food, making sure the gravy's hot, so we're not dropping cold gravy on people's food. Keeping it in the food warmers, so moving it from the food warmers to the assembly lines. So there's a lot of work to do. Last year, we had 1 million volunteers. Oh, I bet you it felt like we had 250 volunteers. And at times, it seemed like there was nothing for them to do. And that's sometimes the difficulty of volunteer work. There are ebbs and flows, because while they maybe stood around for 15 minutes, 15 minutes later, they were up to their elbows, as everyone was. And there was a nice little break, and people were able to mill around and chat, and then 15 minutes later, it was havoc and chaos, or I should say, a lot of work. But nobody did a lot of heavy lifting because there were a lot of hands there. So if you're interested, come join us. It's a great day. It's a good event. It feels good too. You walk away, you just have this wonderful feeling about what the holidays are truly meant to be. So that's Thanksgiving Day and December 19th. That is almost it. The last two things I want to say is our new location. We've got a lot coming up on our new location. I think starting January 1st, we're going to be knee-deep in it. So we'd love to have some folks who might just be interested in that, be kind of like a facilities subcommittee that can help usher in some of these improvements. One of the things I learned this weekend, we have $400,000 approved for improvements to the Waterford School for all of the agencies that are going in. So a big part of what we had asked for money to support things like heat splits, ACs in our rooms, is now been appropriated, so that money's there. And we'll have to go through the process of speccing it and then bidding it and having the work done throughout the year. But some of the big stuff now is taken care of, including the handicap bathroom renovations. That's funded. We have the money for it. Handicap doors, we have the money for it. Stuff we don't have the money for, painting on the walls. So one of the things I thought might be a good idea, and have already gotten 2 companies, even before we've announced, to say, if you do this, I'm in, to sponsor painting a room. And that could be coming in and painting it themselves. One of these groups is going to bring their staff in, their team, and paint one of the rooms for us. And the other one said they would either pay for it or have their team come in and do it. So that might be a way to get half of the stuff done quickly, and then only have to work at half the rooms over the course of the next 2 or 3 years. So if you know somebody who's into painting, would like to do that, and you don't mind broaching that with them, please do, and then bring that back to Ron, to Paul, or myself. We'd love to hear it.
I just ask one question?
No. All right.
Only because in the past, when the David Governor, all that Sheriff Luke used to get some of the guys from the prison. So I know it's COVID and all that, there's other issues, but are we going to get some of them that have to pay or get anything outdoors for that?
So for those who didn't hear, the question is community service folks that have been sentenced to community service. Can we use those? And I use them a lot. When I was at the chamber, we used them for a lot of things. Community service people did painting at the chamber for us, for example. That's a double-edged sword. They're not professional painters, all right? So if you went into a room that they painted, you might find it unbelievably the best professional job you've ever seen. Or, depending on the crew, you might see paint streaks across your ceiling and a lot of paint drops on your floor. So I'm always a little bit torn by that, because we're not able to do quality control. There are other things they can do that I've already kind of asked the sheriff to start exploring for us, including maybe helping do some woodwork in one of the rooms, or building shelves or cabinets, taking the existing stuff and retrofitting it so that we have containers to put yoga mats in, or pillows in the craft room, creating craft cabinets for different, but not just plywood craft cabinets. If we're going to do it, let's make it nice so it has a long-term lasting aesthetic effect. So we're working on that. Yeah.
Very good.
Lastly, just from a board participation, I told you Ron was in all day today answering the phones. And it occurred to me in talking to Ron that it allows folks to see kind of really the nuts and bolts of what happens in the office. And some of you have already done that. Some of you have had trial by fire in having to sit and answer phones. Just like during the COVID clinic, oh my God, that That was incredible work with that. But I would love to have, for those of you who haven't, invite you to come and we'll schedule you for a couple hours, a couple days, a couple weeks, whatever you'd like, if you want to do it, and come and just answer the phone and say hello. You know, one of the things when I asked Ron to help cover me today, he said, "Geez, I don't know everything that's going on. How do I know what to say to folks?" You did great. You did great. It's, you know, it's as much as taking notes and phone numbers for a staff person to get back to them, as it is about, you know, knowing the intricacies of Medicaid.
Well, I was very happy to have Anita, who volunteers, and she knew where all the books were. I took a couple of phone numbers and all that, and I said, "Mike will call you when he gets back," or Anita will call you. I had no idea where you had some of the folders. After she came in, she showed me here and there, but I'm still not used to a telephone system yet. So,
Best thing
he showed me a
ever.
couple of things this morning, but that worked out well. The funny thing was that a couple of times when I answered the phone, and I said, Gardner CAC, Gardner Council on Aging, Ron speaking, who's Ron?
Ron, what happened to,
They
what
were kind
happened
of
to
surprised it
Ron?
was a different person who was answering the phone, but everything went well.
I should have had to say, this is Surrogate Nancy. Yeah.
At one point I was answering the, I thought I was still working in the hospital. I was answering the phone as I was in the hospital.
I think when I did it.
I did that one.
I used the CAPS collaborative, and that
Well,
was
that's
like
it.
8 years.
Yes.
Got out of there.
And that's been 14 for me, so.
But you know, it is fun. Like, it's not, that being said, I always ask for folks to volunteer and bring their expertise, experience, education here to the center, because folks will enjoy it. I want to thank Paul Crowley for doing that. Paul just started the Writers Club here at the Gardner Senior Center.
Oh, the other gentleman's doing it.
Yeah.
I saw him written down the next week. Welcome.
Next week.
Yeah.
So if you have an inclination and thinking about writing your novel, your biography, come on in. Paul can give you some tips and tricks. All right, that's all I have. I told you I'd be short 10 minutes. Oh my God, that's a new record.
Yeah, we done bring us on.
13.
Okay, open discussion, anything, oh, go ahead.
Thanks for the question. On Waterford, I'm clear on about what kind of shape the plumbing and the electrical. I'm just afraid that, you know, we had that concern downstairs with the plumbing and so forth. Has the plumbing and the electrical, the internals of that, you looked at yet, Waterford, those kind of things?
The plumbing was good. I mean, remember that up until 4 months, not even 4 months ago, until September 30th, it was still being used as a school. So the plumbing's good, there are no issues there. I think people have been, the two things folks have really kind of brought up is water. You know, is there a water issue? We live in New England, folks. If you don't have water in your basement, count your blessings, because the vast majority of New Englanders do. There is water all around Waterford Street School. On the elementary side, we're dry. On the junior high side, there's water that gets in there, but they have a pump and evac system that vents it, pumps it, and keeps it, you know, so that mold doesn't build up. So that system's been in place for 10 years. Just so you know, that day we had the wicked heavy rain. I think it was a Friday? It poured like cats and dogs. Like, yeah, maybe a Thursday. Our entire street was flooded.
Oh, I came by
Flooded
that day.
above the bottom of your car, so it was coming up to people's doors. That's how much water was in the street and in the parking lot.
That was at the Hillside Gardens, when we came down that day.
That's right. That's,
So
yep.
I was dropping Terry off, and I couldn't believe the water was up that high, over the curbs and everything else on the street.
We have water regularly in our pool, regularly. So if we have a heavy rain like that, we know first thing in the morning, Rob and I go down and mop the floors and wet bathroom to get the water out. Like, we have water here. And it's, you don't think we've ever talked about that, we've never addressed it, because we can mitigate it, we can resolve it, it's not a big deal. Electrical, the answer is there's sufficient electrical supply in that building to handle what that building was designed for. But, do we need to do some upgrades to electrical? Only in respect to the service. So, we're going to be bringing more freezers, more coolers, more unit ventilators. Right now, could this existing system handle our AV, our unit ventilators, or heat splits? Absolutely could. But we want to make sure it can handle other things like the freezer that's outside and the new freezers that are being bought by growing places and CAC, those are going to have a whole different kind of load structure and requirement. Also understand, if you walk into that kitchen, first day we walked in for the first tour, there were 15 refrigerators there. And there were 15 refrigerators that were 30 years old, right? These aren't refrigerators that are brand new energy efficient. So the load that they require is much different than the load of these new high efficiency. We'll need to do some improvements on electrical for sure. No doubt we will. Yeah, and that's part of the budget.
What about the toilets?
Toilets are good. No, there's no issues with the toilets.
Well, they have children's toilets. And
Yeah,
some
so
types.
what we're gonna do is we're gonna put Hoyer lifts in all the bathrooms so that, so the answer is,
I was looking for the urinal, but hopefully.
I think I mentioned right at the very beginning, one of the major things in that 400,000 is to redo all the bathrooms, make those handicap accessible. But I will say, if you had the luxury of walking around, in the elementary school, it's actually elementary preschool rooms, they have water closets, literally a toilet in every room. And the square feet in that is about 3 square feet. It's like a 3 by 3. So if you're wondering, like, how do you get on, never mind how you get on and off the toilet, how do you get in the room and close the door? It's impossible. It's small. Those toilets will probably cap. We won't, yeah, we're not going to use them, that's for sure, because they're in every different classroom. So we're going to cap those and use all those rooms for storage. Paul.
Is there any future thought of the center being used as a disaster center in case of a hurricane or a blizzard? Or
So,
since it would seem to lend itself to the space.
I agree with you on that, Paul. I do agree with you, and I did have that conversation with both the mayor and the state rep. Prior to the new school, the new elementary school being built, the Gardner Senior Center is one of those disaster shelters. We do cooling centers, warming centers, all of that. And we have the luxury of doing that because we have a generator that supports the entire electrical load of this building. But the reality is our footprint is small in comparison, or respectively. We will not have a generator that will cover the entirety of the Waterford Street School. But we will have a generator. There is a generator going in. They are planning on putting a generator in to at least cover the essential elements, like the heat systems, the refrigeration systems, because there are 3 organizations that rely heavily on refrigeration. Us, the CAC, and growing places. So they will create a backup system of supply for them with a gas generator. But we won't be able to, we run both. All of our lights can be on, all of our air conditioners can be on, our elevator runs, our refrigerators run, all on generator supply. Our generator is built to do our entire capacity. We won't have that there. So the answer to that is no. And then the second part of the reason for that is the new school was built specifically for that. So
Right, but the new school is miles away from that neighborhood.
Yeah.
And people are not going to be able to get to that school. The situation of that school in the neighborhood is ideal for helping out the community.
I don't disagree. I love the fact sometimes it's a pain in the neck to be here till 7, 8, 9 o'clock at night when we have the cooling centers and the warming centers. And I say that only in the sense like you don't expect it, so it's another day that you're putting the time in. But the folks that have used it have really offset any of the bad stuff, right? So you're engaging with people and you know that they're feeling fully grateful for this. But the reality is we won't be doing that. That's not part of the plan for Waterford Street. And I will tell you that one of the primary reasons for that is capacity. A generator is a lot of money. In fact, a generator to cover the existing load in that school would eat up that $400,000 and more.
Well, what about finding a grant from like the Eats Foundation?
Yeah, I'm for it, and both the mayor and the state rep, we've had discussions about a lot of things, not particularly that, but that was brought up, and I said, geez, I would like to have included in the allocation that was requested by the legislature money for the generator, and then we got into the question, why do we need a generator, and cooling centers, warming centers. The disaster shelters, and the answer was pretty clear that that's being done at the new school, which makes a lot of sense, right? You're spending that money for a small amount of money. They can build it to be a disaster shelter, yeah, we'll call it a disaster shelter. Where for Waterford Street, we're putting a lot of money into it. One of the things we will be doing is we will be putting in a ham radio station, though, at Waterford Street. So that'll be part of the EP versus preparedness network. So they don't have that.
Touched on everything except, what about the heat?
I did touch on it a little bit. So the boiler there is almost brand new. It's a couple years old, not more than 5 years old.
What I'm getting across is you have what, 8 different organizations? Various,
Yeah.
from state funded to local funded. What's that going to be split up so that cities like the enormous heating bill, something an organization like the state funded?
I'm going to answer that as delicately as I can. For the senior center space, we will still be fed through the boiler heat system. All of the rooms will be run that, but we'll have additional supplemental heat and air conditioning ability. So through the heat splits, we'll be able to cool the rooms down that we use. So those 7 rooms, not including the gymnasium and the cafeteria, we can cool those. My response to that is the city pays for the heat now in that entire building. They pay for it now, they paid for it for the last 30 years. So I think that they're, and I'm not speaking, I don't want to speak from there. I think that their model says that however they structure the rent for those folks or the lease will offset at least a portion of the heat, maybe not all of it. But those conversations, I always hate to use this line, are way above me. So I'm not in the room having those conversations. I don't know what the arrangements are, but I can say, you know, pretty well that I don't think the city's expecting to cut their heat bill with the advent of the community center. I think there is some expectation that they will be supporting, at least to a small extent, maybe to a large extent, the operations of all the agencies in that building. Which isn't a bad thing, because the idea here is that we're really working in a synergetic environment, right? So our folks use the food pantry folks use the senior center, Growing Place is going to be producing foods for folks that are in the food pantry. So there's really a relationship that exists, but it's still a good question. And I'm sure it's one that's being wrestled with right now between the city council and the mayor to decide, all right, how is that going to work?
I must have missed it. Where exactly is the senior center?
If you're looking at the building, I actually have a map I'm happy to show you. We shared it at this meeting. In fact, the mayor and the state represented. But if you're looking at the building, you're familiar with it, we're the whole right wing. I mean, we're more than 50% of the building. So if you walk in the one story, if you walk in the front door, the main door with the office, almost everything to the right of that is ours. The gymnasium, which is to the right of that in the back, is shared space, but the presumption is it's going to be used the majority of the time for the senior center. And here's a great example of when it won't be. During Christmas, CAC has a big toy program, huge. They don't have a footprint big enough to be able to do that. They use the sacristy of Chair City Church. They take everything out of there and use that space, and it's still too small for them. So they'll use one side of the gymnasium during Christmas for the toy drive, right? So those are the kinds of things we expect are going to happen. Maybe there'll be a community event there. Our plan is whatever we do that use the gymnasium portable and easily removable. So we've thrown out the idea of pickleball, putting in pickleball courts. Well, the pickleball court supplies, they're all removable. Like, you don't have to put anything permanently in the ground. they're all transportable. So we could break them down and set them up very easily. Keeping part of the gymnasium open for basketball for folks that just want to come and shoot hoops during the day. There's no setup or takedown of that. So that if we have to cancel basketball for 2 weeks because there's another use, that won't be a heavy lift. Doing COVID clinics or large dinner events there, we'll be able to do that by just breaking things down. But it's a good question. I mean, there's still a lot to be flushed out from the mixed-use space and some of those issues like parking and snow removal and lighting. And I think part of the proposal on the electricity is to explore breaking that out into the 4 agencies and what their services. I think that's probably going to be wicked hard, and here's why. I walked around the facility. I think I counted 10 different circuit breaker boxes. So that's a lot. So, and that's just not even looking finally. So I think it might be a little bit of a heavy lift to break it out. So they might include that as part of the lease.
Another large room that we have here, when we walk over, the
Cafeteria.
which has a stage and everything else there also. So when we do entertainment, we have the entertainment above, and people can sit all down below. At least everybody be able to see, not looking between heads, like we do here sometimes. That'd be nice up there.
And that will be shared space as well. Yep. But and we certainly don't use this for entertainment every day. So once a week, once a month, very doable, easily doable. All right, any other thoughts, questions? We will be starting the Ford Snow Removal Brigade beginning in November of next year. So we ask you to join that, get a shovel, a snow blower. I am concerned about things like that for rock. Again, our footprint is condensed here. So, I mean, he does a lot of cleanup. But boy, that new footprint, it'll only work for us, but it's still a lot more space. So.
They got a couple of those awnings and all that. There's something where it's going up the snowfall,
Yeah.
and then we have ice and get it like slippery when people coming in, at least they can well clear it off. And no ramps.
No ramps.
When does it take over that building?
So the timeline is, believe it or not, they're looking at first quarter of next year for some of the tenants to start moving in and work in their space. I think for us, the idea has been floated summer of next year. I'm a little bit more pessimistic. I'm thinking maybe late fall next year because, and of course, the appropriation hadn't been made. So if that vote hadn't been taken, the money not available, I was saying, all right, it's going to take some time to appropriate the money. Once the money is appropriated, you have to spec out the work. So somebody has to do that. Somebody has to sit down and say, all right, we need a unit ventilator, and this is how much conduit you need, and the electrical connections, and all right, for the drop ceiling, this is the material, and the lights. Once the drop ceiling goes in, you have to put new lights in, so this is what the LED light spec is, or equal. And typically, as you know, Dan, and those of you who've been in public work, it has to be bid. So it has to be bid out. Well, I say it has to be bid out. My presumption is it has to be bid out. That takes time. And then awarding the contract takes time. And then the contractor getting in there and doing the work takes time. So I think it's going to be a year, but I'm optimistically hopeful that it'll be sooner than that.
Getting materials.
Yep.
At least it's not as bad as last year.
Right.
It's not like it was last year at the beginning of COVID.
Still bad.
It's still bad, but at least not all. Still stuck in the ocean.
Before we do,
I like that.
we just need to have open discussion.
Yeah.
Yeah, if there's any.
We got open discussion. Anybody have anything they want to bring up?
I don't have anything I want to bring up, but I want to just put some information out there that I recently found out about. As you all know, I have a part-time job, and I work for a man who's an invalid. He's a homeman. We were looking for somebody to come in and give him his flu shots, his COVID shots, or whatever. Chair City Pharmacy in Gardner does go out and call, you make an appointment, and they will go to your home and do the shots. And in fact, he's having his tomorrow. So just if you know anybody that's homebound and can't get out for any of their shots, Chair City Pharmacy.
I switched
We also, Chair City's been a remarkable resource, but we also have great connections at the V&A and between the other dimensions. So if you know somebody, or you hear of somebody who needs that, get in touch with Chair City or call us, we can get it arranged.
Anybody else? Anything? Okay. Go ahead.
This week is Veterans Day.
Yes.
The 11th, Friday, ceremonies over at City Hall. You're all invited to participate. Shopping everybody.
And for those of you, for those of you who didn't hear it, Veterans Day this Friday, 11 o'clock, we have our ceremony at City Hall. And I also want to invite and encourage you to a breakfast at 8 o'clock at Gardner Rehab. If you are a veteran watching this and you are able to see this in time and want to come to the breakfast, please let us know so that we can give them a count, a meal count. So that's breakfast at 8 o'clock on Friday, 11 o'clock at Gardner City Hall in the front. Yep,
No,
all right.
No.
In the auditorium. Oh, that's even better. Yep, auditorium.
It's going to rain that day.
Please join us.
Welcome. Welcome, yes. All right. Okay, we have a motion to entertain? No?
I make a motion to adjourn.
Okay. Do we have a second? Okay. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Okay, very good. See
Thank
each other.
you.
What date? See you in December?
You were so close, Ken.
Kathy? What date, December?
So close.
Okay, we'll see. Meet again here December the 5th.